For nearly 300 years, the galaxy believed the Aurelians no longer existed. Their worlds had vanished from every star map. Their colonies fell silent one after another until even their names became little more than forgotten legends whispered by historians. The Galactic Council officially declared the species extinct after the devastating Eclipse War. No rescue fleets were sent. No investigations were launched. The galaxy simply moved on. To the powerful empires, the Aurelians were a failed civilization that wasn't worth saving. But deep inside an unexplored nebula, hidden behind violent gravitational storms, millions of survivors were still alive. Barely. Their once glorious cities had become rusting fortresses surrounded by endless wastelands. Food was almost gone. Their fusion reactors failed one after another. Every child grew up knowing only hunger and fear. Every single distress signal they transmitted disappeared into the darkness. No one answered. Because no one wanted to. The surviving council members believed the rest of the galaxy had intentionally abandoned them. And they were right. Meanwhile, almost 12,000 light-years away, the exploration cruiser UNS Horizon drifted through uncharted space. Its mission wasn't military. It wasn't political. It was simply searching for new worlds beyond humanity's expanding frontier. Captain Ethan Hayes stared quietly at the sensor display. Anything unusual? Lieutenant Maya Chin frowned. There is something. The bridge fell silent. What kind of something? It looks like an automated distress beacon. The captain raised an eyebrow. Origin. She hesitated. I can't identify the species. That immediately caught everyone's attention. Every major civilization inside known space had already been catalogued. Unknown signals this far beyond explored territory were almost impossible. How old? Hayes asked. Chin zoomed in. Her eyes widened. Approximately 287 years. The entire bridge froze. No beacon survives that long, someone whispered. Someone had been maintaining it. Hayes stood up. Plot the source. Another officer interrupted nervously. Captain, there's a problem. The holographic map filled with crimson warning markers. A massive gravitational storm completely surrounded the beacon's location. Navigation AI estimated only a 3% chance of safely crossing it. Failure meant certain destruction. Protocol was clear. Turn around. Report the discovery. Wait for reinforcements. That was exactly what every other civilization would do. Captain Hayes looked around the bridge before speaking only 4 words. We're going in. Silence. No one argued. Because every officer aboard the Horizon knew one thing about humanity. If someone was still alive, you didn't leave them behind. The UNS Horizon accelerated toward the violent gravitational storm. Every officer on the bridge knew the odds. 3%. That number echoed silently in everyone's mind as the stars ahead twisted into impossible spirals. Space itself seemed to bend, folding light into shimmering rivers of blue and crimson. Entering the storm in 30 seconds, Lieutenant Maya Chen announced. Captain Ethan Hayes remained calm. Secure all stations. The countdown reached 0. The ship crossed the boundary. Instantly, alarms screamed. Gravity surged without warning, hurling the cruiser violently to one side. Consoles sparked as artificial gravity struggled to compensate. Outside the viewport, lightning-like energy arced across space, striking invisible pockets of distorted spacetime. Structural integrity dropping to 94%. Shields fluctuating. Navigation is losing reference points. The Horizon wasn't simply flying through a storm. It was sailing through broken physics. Hayes gripped his command chair. Manual control. The ship's AI protested. Probability of survival decreasing. Recommend immediate retreat. Recommendation denied. Helmsman Daniel Brooks seized the controls. If we follow the AI, we're dead anyway. The crew trusted him. With incredible precision, Brooks guided the cruiser between collapsing gravity wells, each one capable of crushing entire fleets into microscopic debris. Suddenly, a mountain-sized asteroid appeared directly ahead. There. Brooks rolled the ship just as the asteroid scraped across the shields, sending shockwaves through every deck. Warning lights flashed red. Shields at 62%. Power conduits damaged. Before anyone could recover, the storm unleashed something even worse. Dark shapes emerged from the swirling clouds. Not ships. Not asteroids. Massive autonomous defense drones. Their ancient hulls carried symbols no one recognized. They're targeting us. Without hesitation, brilliant crimson beams erupted from the drones. The horizon twisted between the first barrage, but 2 shots slammed into its aft shields. The bridge shook violently. Engine 3 offline. Hayes narrowed his eyes. They're not random machines. They're protecting something. Chen's sensors finally pierced the storm. I've located the beacon. A holographic image appeared. Everyone stared in disbelief. Hidden within the center of the storm floated an enormous artificial world. Its surface was scarred by centuries of bombardment. Gigantic cities lay in ruins beneath fractured energy shields. Ancient orbital stations drifted silently around the planet like forgotten ghosts. Life signs. Millions of them. They're still alive. Chen whispered. But before anyone could celebrate, another signal arrived. Unlike the automated beacon, this one was live. A weak voice echoed across the bridge. Unknown vessel, please identify yourselves. The transmission crackled with exhaustion. You are scavengers. There is nothing left to steal. Captain Hayes leaned toward the communications console. His voice was calm. This is Captain Ethan Hayes of the United Nations Starship Horizon. He paused for only a second. We came because you asked for help. Silence filled the channel. For the first time in nearly 3 centuries, someone on that forgotten world began to cry. The bridge of the UNS Horizon fell completely silent. No one spoke as the sound of quiet sobbing echoed through the communications channel. It wasn't fear. It wasn't relief alone. It was the sound of a civilization realizing it had not been forgotten after all. Captain Ethan Hayes waited patiently. Finally, the trembling voice returned. You actually came. Hayes nodded, though the stranger couldn't see him. We did. A long pause followed before the alien introduced herself. I am High Coordinator Lyra, caretaker of the Aurelian survivors. Her voice carried centuries of exhaustion. You are the first outsiders to answer our distress call in 287 years. Lieutenant Maya Chen exchanged stunned glances with the crew. 287 years. She whispered. They've been waiting this entire time. Lyra activated a visual transmission. The main view screen flickered to life. The crew expected soldiers. Instead, they saw ordinary people. Children wrapped in patched blankets. Elderly Aurelians with tired eyes. Engineers repairing machines that looked older than anyone aboard the Horizon. Entire families living inside corridors illuminated by flickering emergency lights. The once great Aurelian capital had become little more than a dying shelter. We've recycled every resource we had, Lyra explained quietly. Every ship, every satellite, even the metal from our monuments became spare parts. She hesitated. Our food reserves will last 37 more days. The bridge grew heavy with silence. Captain Hayes didn't need to ask what happened next after those 37 days. Everyone already knew. Lieutenant Brooks suddenly looked up from his console. Captain, I'm detecting dozens of inactive defense platforms around the planet. Chen zoomed in. They're ancient. Lyra nodded. They defended us during the Eclipse War. Why aren't they active now? No power. Hayes studied the ruined orbital defenses. They could still fight. Yes, Lyra admitted. But we no longer have enough energy to awaken them. Before Hayes could respond, every alarm aboard the Horizon blared at once. Multiple hyperspace signatures detected. The bridge snapped into action. How many? Chen's face turned pale. 27, no. 40, 60. More contacts continued appearing. An entire fleet was emerging beyond the storm. The holographic display filled with crimson markers. Lyra's expression turned to horror. They found us. Hayes looked toward the screen. Who? The Dominion. Her voice shook. They destroyed our civilization. A massive black warship exited hyperspace first, followed by dozens of heavily armed cruisers. Their formation was flawless, their weapons already charging. A cold transmission arrived seconds later. Attention, unidentified vessel. You have entered restricted military space. Surrender immediately and hand over all Aurelian survivors. Failure to comply will result in total extermination. The horizon stood alone. One exploration cruiser against an entire invasion fleet. Captain Hayes slowly stood from his chair, his eyes fixed on the approaching armada. Then he gave an order that made every member of his crew smile. Open a channel. If they're looking for easy prey, a confident grin crossed his face. They've chosen the wrong humans. The bridge of the UNS Horizon was calm despite the impossible odds. 60 Dominion warships surrounded the forgotten Aurelian world, their weapons glowing like stars preparing to explode. Against them stood a single human exploration cruiser, scarred from the journey through the gravitational storm, its shields weakened, and one engine barely functioning. Captain Ethan Hayes gave a single nod. Open the channel. The face of the Dominion fleet commander appeared on the main screen. His dark armor was decorated with medals earned from countless conquests. His expression carried only arrogance. "Human," he said coldly, "you are interfering in Dominion business. Leave now, and we may allow your crew to survive." Hayes folded his hands behind his back. "These people requested help. They are no longer your concern." The commander laughed. "The galaxy abandoned them centuries ago. No empire will come to save them." Hayes smiled. "That's where you're wrong." The commander frowned. "No one is coming." Hayes' voice became firm. "We didn't come because someone ordered us. We came because leaving innocent people behind is not what humanity does." For a brief moment, silence filled every communication channel. Then the Dominion commander's patience ended. "So be it. All ships, fire." Dozens of plasma cannons erupted at once. Brilliant beams streaked toward the horizon. "Evasive maneuvers!" Hayes shouted. Lieutenant Daniel Brooks threw the cruiser into a violent roll. The first barrage missed by meters, but several blasts struck the weakened shields. Shield strength at 38%. Hull damage on deck 6. Engine 3 completely destroyed. The horizon shook violently, yet it refused to break. Instead of retreating, Hayes issued another order. "Deploy every reconnaissance drone." The bridge officers looked confused, but obeyed. Hundreds of small drones launched from hidden bays, scattering across the battlefield. The Dominion fleet laughed. "Tiny machines?" The commander mocked. "That is your strategy?" Lieutenant Myachin smiled as data flooded her console. "Captain, the drones are mapping the storm." Within seconds, a detailed three-dimensional model of the gravitational anomalies appeared on the holographic display. Hayes finally revealed his plan. "They have bigger guns. We have a better battlefield." Brooks instantly understood. "You want to lure them into the gravity wells." "Exactly." The horizon accelerated straight toward the heart of the storm. The Dominion fleet pursued without hesitation, confident that one final volley would end the battle. But they didn't know the storm. Humanity had spent the last hour learning its every secret. As the first Dominion battleship crossed an invisible gravity fault, space suddenly folded around it. The massive warship twisted violently. Its shields collapsed. Then, in a blinding flash of light, the ship was crushed into fragments by its own momentum. The Dominion formation erupted into chaos. Captain Hayes looked at the tactical display and spoke quietly. "Now, the real fight begins." The destruction of the first Dominion battleship stunned the entire battlefield. One moment, it had been leading the attack. The next, it was nothing more than a cloud of molten debris swallowed by the gravitational storm. Panic spread through the Dominion fleet. "Impossible! The storm is changing. It's a trap." Captain Ethan Hayes shook his head. "No. The storm was always like this. You just never took the time to understand it." Using the real-time maps created by the Horizon's reconnaissance drones, Lieutenant Daniel Brooks guided the human cruiser through the maze of gravity wells with incredible precision. Every sharp turn forced the Dominion ships to follow, and one after another, they drifted into invisible pockets of distorted space. Another cruiser vanished in a burst of blue light. A destroyer collided with its own escort after its navigation systems failed. Within minutes, nearly a third of the Dominion fleet was crippled without the Horizon firing more than a handful of defensive shots. The Dominion commander slammed his fist against his console. Retreat! Regroup outside the storm. But it was already too late. The chaos had given the Aurelians something they hadn't possessed in centuries. The High Coordinator Lyra stood inside the ancient planetary command center. "Captain Hayes," she said over the comms, "your distraction has given our engineers enough time." "Enough time for what?" Hayes asked. Lyra smiled for the first time. "To wake our guardians." Across the ruined planet, colossal fusion reactors roared back to life. Power surged through forgotten cables buried beneath the cities. Then, one by one, the ancient orbital defense platforms awakened. Massive energy cannons rotated toward the Dominion fleet. The invaders froze. "They're operational?" "They were never destroyed," Lyra replied. "Only sleeping." Brilliant emerald beams erupted across space. Dominion cruisers exploded as the restored defense network unleashed centuries of stored fury. Ships that had hunted the Aurelians for generations were forced into full retreat. Within minutes, the surviving invaders fled into hyperspace. The battle was over. For the first time in 287 years, the skies above the Aurelian homeworld were peaceful. Days later, more human ships arrived, not battleships, but hospital vessels, engineering crews, food transports, and colony support ships. The Aurelians watched in disbelief as thousands of humans worked side by side with them, repairing cities instead of claiming them. High Coordinator Lyra stood beside Captain Hayes, looking at children playing in streets that had once echoed with silence. "Why?" she asked softly. "Why risk everything for strangers?" Hayes looked toward the rising sun over the recovering world. "Because one day humanity may need help too." He smiled. "And when that day comes, we hope someone remembers that we chose compassion over convenience." Years later, historians would write that the galaxy had abandoned the Aurelians. But history would remember something else even more important. When everyone else turned away, humanity answered.